Thanks for allowing me to speak today. You've heard, I suppose, that the economic rationale behind continued logging of our old growth forests isn't there. You know, we haven't even stated all the cases against the economic arguments, I suppose, that the sitting government's using to continue the practices. I mean, we haven't even talked about the on-cost to our roads from having so many log trucks on our roads, and you know, you can just cite so many different examples. So I'm going to change tack a little bit and go more, I suppose, the emotive community route with this, because I believe that the history of logging, there's been a lot of emotional scarring in rural towns, but there's an opportunity for these towns to rebuild off the back of that, and that's through opportunities like ecotourism and like Michael and Giz were saying, in the farming sector, farm plantation forestry, farm agroforestry. I have lived in the southwest now for 8 years and moved down from Perth. I lived in Boyup Brook for 5 of those years and Bridgetown for 1.5 years. And in that time, when I first moved to Boyup Brook, it was about 2004, 2005, you didn't see any log trucks around, and if you did, they were very rarely, and they were blue gums or pines, and so you thought, okay, that's fine. And Boyup Brook, as far as forestry goes, it's starting to get into that marginal country where the rainfall doesn't support large jarrah forests, doesn't support the large red gum forests. They're sort of struggling to hold on as it is, and I started noticing, particularly sort of towards, I guess, 2008, 2010, there's increasing amounts of log trucks on the roads, and I work in natural resource management, so I'm aware of these things. I drive around the southwest a lot for my job, so I was starting to see log trucks, and not just in Boyup Brook, coming out of Kojonup and all of these other marginal areas. I'm thinking, hang on a second, what's going on here? And I started delving into it. I started getting really scared and talking to people, just my friends and family, about this stuff, and people I've worked with and lived within these towns. Their awareness was absolutely zero. And oh yeah, there's been, Bridgetown, how can you miss a log truck rumbling down the bloody main street? It's especially when there's these big jarrahs on it. So, and people weren't noticing. So I'm getting more and more alarmed, and then we've got to the situation we're at now, where we've got the draft forest management plan doesn't have the word conservation in it once at all. It's not about conservation. It's about taking what we can out of our forests, which I don't believe our communities want to do, but they're just not aware that this is the plan for the next 10 years. So my, I suppose, aim, and I guess our aim as part of this election, is to make the community aware and re-education about the fact that our forests aren't safe. They're probably in more of a dire situation now than what they ever were, if you take into account things like the added impacts of climate change and the fact that, like Giz was saying, we need to retain our forests, we need to grow our forests so there's more evapotranspiration, our climate changes, etc., etc., etc. So we really need to make people aware that if they do care about their forests, if they do care about taking their kids camping on the weekends, and actually being able to show them what a carry tree looks like, actually be able to show them what I've never seen a numbat. I may not ever get the chance, and that makes me really sad. So let's give our kids and our grandkids the chance to actually go out and enjoy these environments. And yeah, so my aim is really going to be to, I guess, rally the troops over the election, because in the Warren Blackwood, it really is the electorate where a lot of the action's going to be happening on the ground, and about educating people, making them aware that there are other options out there. There's ecotourism options, there's farm forestry options. We don't have to swallow the argument that if we end the forestry industry in our forests today, there won't be any jobs. That's not the case. It's just something that people are fed as part of these sorts of campaigning issues. So that's me, and that's what I'm hoping to do over the next 5 weeks. And going to get Giz elected. Yes.